By the way, 19. So first off, let's discuss and recap some of the fallout concerning my last video, which advocated individual freedom to fail-safe suicide, primarily because denying this freedom can result in, well, has resulted in people committing suicide in a manner which is not fail-safe and has no doubt brought about just horrendous damage to those who have survived their own suicide attempt against their own will, needless to say. And it's not the only reason to advocate this freedom, but I'll just focus in on this one as a start because some of the comments and video responses I received really pissed me off. So on to those. Most of which, yeah, they didn't feel the need to touch my arbitrary line argument. And I found that to be pretty arrogant because a good chunk of the video that they were reacting to, my video, was spent on just articulating and stressing the importance of the fact that there is a line and it's pretty sloppy. So anyway, yeah, predictably the common theme of the contentions was that if you allow a young depressed person access to euthanasia, well obviously they're not going to be alive 10 years down the road, at which point their depression may have fully vanished. And apparently all these people think that the damage in this outcome far outweighs the damage caused in the outcome of lifelong depression. And it's kind of reminiscent of anti-abortion arguments in the sense that, hey, the embryo could have gone on to live a perfectly happy existence despite all the signs pointing to the contrary. It still could have, so you still can't deprive the embryo of its opportunity to flourish. So by that logic, outlawing abortion is completely rational. And this coming from atheists. It's just amazing. But regardless, some of you guys simply aren't dealing with the harsh reality of the fact that lots of people don't ever truly escape their chronic depression. So you're pretty much giving all of them a big fuck you. You're telling them that they have to endure for the sake of those whose endurance will pay off in the end. And let's discuss exactly how it pays off in the end, for the cases which it does. How does every depressed person get treated? What's the one common presumption constantly made about their depression? According to the experts, if you see something in this world worthy to be depressed over, there's something wrong with your perspective. You're not looking at things realistically enough. Why? Well, obviously because you're depressed. You're irrational because you're depressed, and you're depressed because you're irrational. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with this harsh reality of pretty much every aspect of life. No, people get over that, right? And to those who don't, what do we do with them? We pump them full of chemicals until they do get over it. Only difference with them is they get over it one day at a time. So why? Why do you make this arrogant assumption that depression blurs perspective as opposed to clarifying perspective? I mean, it just might. I mean, I'm sure we've all known, happy-go-lucky egomaniacs who could have used a little bringing down to earth every now and then. But even they are looked up to this very day. There's still plenty of people who will applaud positive outlooks on life, no matter how drenched in denial those positive outlooks are. There's just this psychological inclination to endorse that shit. I mean, I've known people who visited burn units and who'd get inspired by the positivity and the bravery of third-degree burn victims, who are mostly children, and the kid would just regurgitate the positive rhetoric of its guardian. But you can still see the sinking feeling the kid had when they would contemplate their own reality. It was just clear as day, and the adults just turn away when it becomes evident. But again, I mean, even without depression or physical damage playing a role in the individual's decision to end it, and the decision would simply be rooted in the fact that living people aren't immune to anything. Let's say that's the case. There are endless possibilities of horror that can bestow the living only. And as atheists, we're fully aware of the fact that there's no guarantees preventing any of those things from taking place. So if someone takes that for what it's worth, and it's worth a hell of a lot, why diagnose them with insanity? I mean, most of us can't fathom how bad things can get, because yeah, we haven't been struck by anything that tragic. But the lack of guaranteed immunity to that kind of horror is rational enough of a decision for someone to simply say, okay, well, yeah, it's just not worth it for me. And I haven't been presented with one cogent counter-argument as to how someone's decision to not live because the stakes can be too high, potentially, is in any way an irrational decision. So to those who are venomously opposed to this euthanasia thing, make that argument. Explain why people who aren't depressed and who have perfectly good, happy lives, but simply want to reduce the possibility of contracting tuberculosis or something from 5% to 0%, explain why that's irrational. Never mind illegal, just start off explaining how it's in any way irrational line of thought. And from there you can build a bridge to making a case as to why euthanasia should be available only for the terminally ill and not for everyone else. And why it would make sense to oblige the everyone else to jump off bridges or blow their heads off. So do that. Please and thank you. And I guess as far as the contract goes, I know people can change their minds, but the point is to get them to make the decision early on. Before they step into, whatever dangerous profession they might step into, they might delve into and spend the remainder of their lives on. And hypothetically, there would be a clause in the contract that would ensure the decision made was in no way an irreversible decision. So yeah, they make their stance known early on, and then they can flip-flop on it all they wish. And the flip-flops would be documented in black and white, legally, if that's what the individual chooses to do. So yeah, that's pretty much everything at this point, right? And if I haven't covered something, let me know in the comments, and we'll go at it some more. And yeah, I'm all about this topic at this point. I'm going to be pretty immersed in it, given the critiques I received, and how unsatisfactory they were. And in addition to the fact that, yeah, last video of mine has well over 1,000 hits by this point, and YouTube hasn't touched it yet. So props there. Gives me more motivation to talk about it, because yeah, I hope the trend will continue. But I'm not really holding out that much hope, because my channel has fallen prey to YouTube's algorithmic demotion, which I seem to recall has also plagued Gary in the past, and I think a couple of others. Because yeah, 2 months ago, if you were to type in the first 5 letters of my screen name in the search bar, you'd be presented with the remainder of the name through the autofill option right below. But that privilege has since been revoked for some reason, as far as my name goes. And everyone else still seems to have it. Even if they only have 20 subs, they have that privilege. So clearly, YouTube, I'm not on their good list, probably. And aside from that, when you type in my name fully, there's about 20 videos that pop up, which you'd have to scroll through until you get to one of mine, and then it's right back to other users' videos. So, my stuff is pretty buried, and it's just such bullshit. It's just bullshit that YouTube has no interest in. They still have no interest, despite all the public outcry. They still don't care about creating some sort of a platform allowing for a fair battle of ideas. Instead, they'll pick and choose. Because contrary to popular belief, they don't only promote Fred types. They promoted that anti-Scientology guy. They promoted that drinking with Bob guy. I think I even saw a Pat Condell video, his last video on the front page the other day, which is good, since it was a pretty unapologetic video, unapologetic about its ruthless anti-theism. But yeah, they're allowing the extreme views to flourish. It's just, what gets me is as soon as you try to build something a bit more three-dimensional with these views as a foundation, they'll just cut your legs right out under you. And to anyone who still thinks the flagging system is set up in a way so it's only triggered after a certain number of flaggings automatically, no. There is a staff member on the other side that decides which flaggings are worthy of action and which ones aren't. Because yeah, there's just no way that last Pat Condell video, and pretty much all of his videos, which get hundreds of thousands of views, there's no way that they receive less flaggings than, for instance, that Emendum Raspberry video that got him kicked off. Because that video had less than 1,000 views by the time it was deleted. So yeah, there's staff on the other side picking and choosing, and it's just such bullshit. But anyway, on to videos. I'm not going to have much time left. But yeah, speaking of Gary, he's been doing mostly videos on the economy, still trying to convince that Joe guy that the main problem isn't the Fed printing money or some fractional reserve banking scheme. Well, I shouldn't say scheme, just the very design of fractional reserve banking. No, the main problem is the consolidation of wealth. Like he said, the 8,000 American households having more income than, what is it, the bottom 70 million workers combined? I mean, it's just a travesty. And to have to keep stressing how that's the main problem, even after you put the statistics of it right in their face. I mean, to anyone to me, anyone who acknowledges those statistics and goes right back to foaming over the bankers or something is just not going to be worth the time and effort. Unless they have like thousands of people eating out of their ass. You know, which that Joe guy doesn't, so, I mean, Gary continues putting up with his babble. And on top of that, he's still holding out hope that if he keeps trying to engage the modern mystic into an ongoing debate, he'll ultimately get him to admit that capitalism is failed or something. I don't know if that's his goal, but yeah, he keeps wasting time covering modern mystics' videos, even after that brief fling modern mystic had with those conspiracy theories. So yeah, I don't get what Gary's expecting from either of those two, but I'm not expecting anything from them at this point. I mean, they've both been here for a while, Gary and Nick, and they've been on again, off again, and it's just funny how it all comes down to the core